Agape House Band, bringing this sacred song across the land, emanating from the place in which we take a stand in the great I am, anchoring heaven on earth, not to be a curse, but having a sacred verse that we may traverse through the planet Earth as God beings. That's our Agape House Band. Give them some love, give Tyler some love, give Marianne Lewis some love, give everybody some love. That's why we are here. That's why our community is called Love. It's called the Love International Spiritual Center. Agape, which means unconditional love, the love of God operating within the human heart as described by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Everyone just take a moment and embrace yourself for just an instant and just feel this divine moment of self-care where you're feeling and sensing your oneness with the presence of God is so necessary for you to pull away from the tumult of the world for a moment, the world of effects and circumstances, appearances, situations, beliefs, and perceptions, and get a real sense that right where you are is all of the power and presence and love that there is, for you are never distant from the presence. It's always right here and right now. We begin our service with that awareness. We began it, obviously, with affirmation and prayer and sacred music, and we continue to have a greater and greater realization of our oneness with the presence of God. Our theme of the month is Pray or Be Pray. It's harvest time, now and forever. When we speak of pray, I'm remembering someone sent me, in the DM aspect of life on Instagram, someone sent me something that I said back in the 90s, and they said that they still listen to this particular service that I did back in the 90s, and there was a particular phrase that I used back then that still ruminates through this individual's consciousness. And she said that I said, pray not for a desired state, but to pray from a desired state. Now, that is what prayer is all about. And I guess since the 90s, I've been saying that we are to come into a vibrational frequency to pray from the desired state, not merely for a desired state. Oftentimes, people are praying for a desired state. They're placing what they want somewhere in the future, somewhere where it is not, and the future is just your imagination, by the way. And what we're teaching about prayer is that when you stop, you're having a realization and you're moving yourself into a higher frequency of the desired state, whether it's harmonizing prosperity, whether it's abundance, whether it's joy, whether it's peace, whether it's love. You're not praying for it, you're praying from it. So our movement in thought and in consciousness and in spiritual practice is to lift our frequency so that we're not looking for anything outside of ourselves. We're activating from deep within us, which is about what the class is all about that will be starting shortly, so that we're not praying for a desired result. We're praying from that vibration and frequency. Without that, we become prey. We become prey to the world of effects and circumstances and conditions and situations, which oftentimes are a contagion of worry, doubt, and fear, and people catch it. It becomes popular to normalize the fear, the doubt, and the worry to the degree that if you are in bliss and ecstasy and joy and happiness, sometimes you're looked upon as an odd person when in fact there's so much stuff going on the planet. But those who dive deep enough into the awareness of the oneness of God and feels the emergence of a very powerful energy sees something differently. We're understanding that the world is in preparation for a big leap in consciousness because of the confusion and the chaos and the polarity and the polarization that's taking place. That is the precursor to emergence, you see? That is what the world is going through right now, similar to what happens when the seed is about to break open and become shoots and roots and become a tree. The same thing that happens when a caterpillar caterpillar goes through its tumult and its breakdown and its polarity and its polarization and its killing off of the butterfly DNA in order to maintain its limited point of view, underneath there is an emergence that takes place that births a whole nother creature at a higher level of accord and a level of octave. The world is going through the same thing at this particular period of time. And so unless you are praying from the desired state of peace and well-being and joy and harmony, you become prey to the condition of emergence and chaos that you don't even know what it is. And you end up on one side or another rather than understanding that there's no sides in God. There's only an awareness of the isness of the presence. And that becomes active in your awareness so that you become an ambassador on earth as it is in the higher frequency of the Most High. The Most High God presence of which is everywhere. Now, there's a lot in there that I have just said. And oftentimes people are prey to the media. They're prey to the influences of things going down. And they don't quite see it because they're praying for something in the future. They're praying for some external desired result, and they have not yet stopped and come to an awareness of their oneness with the power and the presence and the love of God, which comes through spiritual practice or a crisis so big that it stops time, then you're able to see yourself from a higher perspective. So we're talking today primarily about letting go to the flow because it is eternal, which means at a particular period of time in your spiritual practice, if you stop, if you have a level of quietude, a level of stillness, a level of silence, as I was sharing in the earlier way of meditation service, you can begin to feel the hum of radiance of the presence that is behind and infusing all creation. In other words, when you go and you look at a beautiful sunset, you walk through nature and you feel the love of the trees bowing down to your divinity. You put your feet on the earth and you can feel the pulse of Mother Earth. You begin to look at the ocean and you feel your own oceanic nature. You look at your pets and you look at all of nature as you become still. There is a hum behind all creation, and what you are looking at when you look at all of those beautiful things, you're really picking up the hum and the presence of radiance that's behind the creation of the tree and the ocean and all the animals and the earth itself. And in that sacred hum, you begin to catch the broadcasts of the Spirit of the living God, and you're able to let go to this flow which is eternal, and your mind ceases to prey on you through the programs that have been set up in your mind for your protection in this particular dimension of 3D, 3 dimensions. People's minds are preying upon them to keep them bound, keep them unliberated into a structure of safety because people are really afraid of freedom. They can't handle freedom. They can't handle unbounded nature. Their unbounded nature. People can't handle the ecstasy and the bliss of liberation. And so your spiritual practice is sneaking up on it. So incrementally, through insight and revelation, you become more comfortable with freedom. And you become more comfortable with what is called dynamic structure, you see. And so the mind, which is preying upon you and seeking to protect you in the structure of our society, the structure of our civilization, we should put civil back into civilization, mind you. And that's what our purpose is here is as spiritual adepts, spiritual practitioners, individuals who are seeking to wake up to their glorious nature. And so as we start to get into the sacred silence and the hum behind creation, we begin to understand that we have to learn how to hold our opinions lightly. We have to hold our beliefs lightly. We have to hold what we cherish lightly, and we have to get into the flow, which is eternal, because we have no idea that what our opinions, our cherished beliefs, whether they are eternal or whether it is something that we picked up from the world, picked up from religion, picked up from our parents, picked up from society, until history unfolds and we realize that what we were holding on to was nothing, not a truth at all. Remember back in the day when gay was an illness? Remember back in the day when women were inferior? Remember back in the day when people of color didn't matter? Those were all entrenched perceptions and beliefs held by people only to be discovered that they were nothing but lies, but had absolutely penetrated the psyche of humanity and still penetrates to a degree to the Neanderthals of our civilization at this time. But we understand that those particular opinions and points of view and cherished ideas had nothing to do with reality. They weren't in the flow. So we have to ask ourselves in this particular moment, what might we be holding on to right now? That years from now we'll discover, and be kindly embarrassed by the beliefs and the perceptions and the point of views that we were holding on to at that particular moment. We don't want to be prey to the internal structures of lies and limitations and fears and doubts and worries and complaints that are not in keeping with the fundamental harmony of the universe. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. And then there is this incessant protection that we have about ourselves called complaining. And we need to ask this question. You don't ever ask who you're complaining to. You ask, what are you complaining to? Because the law is what you're complaining to. The law picks up on the emotionality of the complaint and feeds it back to you as a repetitive experience of what you are complaining about. You think you might be complaining to your friend, but you're actually complaining to the law, and the law says, you are right. I'm going to keep showing you this, even when it's not there, over and over and over again, because you're complaining to the law, unless you're speaking to a spiritual practitioner who's helping to dissolve that and unfurl that and allow you to come back to the Christ presence, because a complaint is really the public declaration of the inability to see potential and the Christ consciousness. And so these are the structures by which the mind is preying upon us. Now, when we begin to understand the statement, behold, I make all things new, when what is used to be called coming into the upper room, which means we're surrendering to an octave and a frequency that's beyond the condensation of the world of effects and circumstances and situations, and coming to accord with a higher frequency. What does that mean? A chord is something that's in music. We're coming into a chord and a frequency of harmony and wholeness that makes everything new, meaning there is a transformation of energetic frequency and vibration that becomes a new song, a new frequency, a newness that begins to take over, and we are here to become new again. And as I said earlier, we are afraid of the freedom. I can remember moments in my own life where there'd be a sudden movement or incremental movement into the light, a dynamic movement into a liberation, dynamic movement into a deep sense of oneness with the presence of God. Freedom, expansion. And there was always an elimination totally of fear. Always elimination totally of a fear of death. Always elimination totally of wanting something outside of myself. And then the idea is to stabilize that, because after a while I could see the mind starting to look for things again, and this has to be done, that has to be done, and this has to be done, and then I have to do this. And there was a desire to close that down unconsciously for after a while. But spiritual practice allows that to sustain itself, but allows me to see that most people are afraid of this. They're afraid of their own freedom, which is why On the internal level, there's this structure of safety, defense mechanisms, coping mechanisms, compulsive behaviors that allow us to abate and not embrace the fear, the doubt, and the worry, and to put it aside and to drink it away, to eat it away, to busy it away, to such a degree that when you look around the globe, you can see individuals that just kind of unconsciously bow down. You see it historically over a number of years of watching human history, bow down to certain levels of fascism, totalitarianism, and they kind of just give in to it because of the inward fear of freedom. They have to have something out there to tell them what to do, and it happens almost in every single country, even here. And so in order to not allow it to sneak in, we have to become comfortable with our own freedom, our own liberation. So we have to let go to the flow, which is eternal. So every spiritual practitioner, whether they know it or not, is an evolutionary revolutionary, because they are not walking lockstep with the present paradigm, and they see the destruction and the recalibration of the paradigm in which we are living. They see the caterpillar dissolving into the butterfly, and they are the ambassador of the imaginary cells of the butterfly, while they are walking in a paradigm that is seeking to destroy them. Whether we call that a Socrates or a Galileo or a King or a Kennedy or a Gandhi or whoever, when you begin to pierce the veil of the illusion of separation, you become a vibrational energy of the status quo. But you become an ambassador of what's trying to emerge. A kind and just global society, actually based on love, actually based on generosity and compassion, actually based upon kindness, actually based upon abundance and beauty and circulation of good all around the planet. You are an evolutionary revolutionary. Pray or be praying. There's no neutrality in the spirit. As you pray, remember back in the day, people thought that people that were just praying were like, with no earthly good. Now, even the quantum scientists are showing us that individuals that hang in those high states of higher accord of prayer and meditation are holding a field of coherence around beauty and love and excellence and joy and spiritual power well beyond the incessant worry and doubt and fear. Worry, of course, is the emotional rehearsing of the very things you don't want to experience. But even our scientists are showing that the individuals that are holding that frequency that leads to right thought and right speech and right action are the precursors to the birthing of a civilization, kind and just, wonderful, Shangri-La society. Feel into your bones what I'm saying right now. Feel into the frequency of what I'm saying. Pray or be praying. It's harvest time, which means in substance, this holy broadcast that is everywhere, all the time, never incessant, never on and off, never static, always flowing. As I was saying in the earlier service, since form follows consciousness, you're able to see because sight became before eyes. You're able to hear because hearing came before ears. Through your spiritual practice of praying and meditating, you're able to see the invisible, hear the inaudible, this eternal broadcast. And as you're hearing it, you no longer succumb to the broadcast from the world that's pulling you into a myopic either or, we and them consciousness, you hear the broadcast of unity, of oneness, of wholeness. And you become a living ambassador of this broadcast vibrationally. There's a hum behind all creation. You think you love the trees? You think you love the ocean? You love the energy that's behind it. That's the presence of God. And you see it in that beautiful tree. You see it in the ocean. You feel it on the earth. But it is the sacred life emanating through all of that. And then get this. After a certain point, you'll see it in what you call ugliness. You'll see it in the breakdown of the old. You'll see it in the decay of what no longer is working. You'll see it everywhere. The presence that's never in absence. Take a holy breath with me right now. Inhale. Release. In breath. Release. In breath. Sustain it. Release. Ask to see that which is real and eternal. Come into the harmonious flow of the presence. It's scary to the ego. It's scary to all of your protective structures that were necessary at certain times of your development. Ask to see and to feel and to hear and to come into accord with it. A vibrational chord of a higher musical frequency of the all good. Ask. That you may break free from your own mind or the programs of the mind that would have you living in fear, despair, or under the influence of misinterpretation of your past, of which much of it is made up. And come into the tonal quality of praying from the desired state. And then one other thing. The mind sometimes becomes needy. Need, metaphysically, means something that you already have that needs to be activated. You are missing nothing. So you don't necessarily say, I need. You say, I am activating that which I already have. I'm activating the prosperity that's within me. I'm activating the peace that is within me. I'm activating the love that is within me. I'm activating the joy that is within me. I'm setting the frequency free. I have what I need. Say it with passion. I have what I need. I have it. It's here. Abundance is here. Joy is here. Love is here. Peace is here. Intelligence is here. Safety and well-being. It is here. I have it. I'm activating it. It's real. And so as we become conscious of the contagion of the world that we may have gotten sucked into, as we become conscious of the worrying and complaining, as we become conscious of the neediness, it all becomes transmuted with our awareness. And then we can look from the upper room, the higher accord, the higher frequency. We can look at the world and see, oh my God, the world is preparing itself for a great leap in consciousness, a quantum leap. How do I know? Because of the chaos, because of the polarization, because of the tumult. There's something trying to emerge. I want to be this tip of the spear of that which is emerging. We want to be the feeling tone of what is uprising. The women in Iran and all over the world. Oppressed people all over the world rising up. We want to be a part of the frequency of the uprising of love and of peace and of harmony and generosity, compassion and kindness. The world is a Rorschach test of what's within us, what's within you. Feel the hum behind all creation through meditation and prayer. Feel it. And then walk as an ambassador of it. You might be alone sometimes. You might be odd sometimes. You might be misunderstood sometimes. Who cares? One with God is not a majority. One with God is unanimous. Because all that there is the presence. And then what happens? You come into the one accord with the presence. One A chord, C-H-O-R-D. Come with the chord and the frequency. And what happens? You continue to become greater versions of yourself. And then what happens? You continue to influence the people around you. They become greater versions of themselves. And then they become greater versions of themselves. And they influence people around them. And they become greater versions of themselves. And then they influence people around them. They become greater versions of themselves. And then after a while, there's a community linked together. We used to call it the blessed community back in the early days of agape. Recognizing each other in God all around the planet. Holding the frequency of what's being born. Pray or be pray. It's harvest time, as I was saying. This broadcast is everywhere, and you can now harvest more good than you can imagine. Not from the world. Your consciousness, awareness of the need answered. I have what I need. And then in the world, you demonstrate health and vitality and safety and prosperity and joy out of no thing. You're compelled into right action. You remember in the day I would say, vision without action is fantasy. And action without vision is chaos. So you're able to feel the hum of the absolute, and then it gives you the dreams and the visions. And then right thought and speech and compels you into action. And so we stop in this moment and we pray that we don't become prey. We enter into the frequency of prayer through the consciousness of gratitude right now. Everyone within their own being, just say, I'm grateful for everything. If you're afraid to say that, say, I'm grateful for something. Start off with anything. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. Oh my God. The recognition factor becomes so high, and the presence that's never an absence becomes so real to us. God is, I am, God is. And that sense of oneness, oozability, oozing through us. We're oozing with it. Beyond words and thoughts, oozing with it. And the vibrational frequency of the words spoken from this consciousness of oneness is a sacred law unto itself that only knows its own unfolding. It is a vibrational law of transmutation of anything that would hinder, delay, obstruct, or deny the fullness of light and love from flowing through us. I speak it for each and every one of us here, knowing there's only one of us. That deep sense of wellness and well-being takes over in that which is thinking through us, and speaking through us, and acting through us. Wellness and well-being, peace of mind, the great sense of needs met right now, harmonizing prosperity, overjoyed. It's active within us. Oh my God, words can't contain this, or explain this, or convey this. There's the feeling tone. Come with me into the upper room. Dr. Homer Johnson would say, come with me upstairs. Come upstairs with me right now. Come on upstairs with me right now. Come on upstairs with me. Come on, don't look over the balcony right now. Just come up and see a brand new world. See it. It's got to come through you. It's got to come through us. It's not going to come. It's going to come through us. Oh, feel it. Feel this morning. It's a feeling kind of service. Help them feel it.
Been traveling these wide roads for so long. My heart's been far from you, 10,000 miles gone. Oh, I wanna come here and give you every part of me, but there's blood on my hands and my lips are unclean. In my darkness I remember Mother's words as they appeared to me. She said, surrender to the good Lord and wipe your slate clean. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna go. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna know.